We are going to start our reading lessons by learning about making connections. And what we're going to talk about today is why should I make connections with the text that I am reading. So over the last several days, we've been talking about creating images or visualizing images as we read. As we continue to use that strategy, I'd also like us to begin by making connections as we read. Well, what does that mean to make a connection? Connections are how we relate our own lives to the text we are reading, or how do we connect one text to another text? In this lesson, we're going to learn about making connections. We're going to talk about text to text, text to self, and text to the world. This is going to help you internalize the story and relate to the characters or to the plot of the story. For instance, when you meet someone for the first time, you probably introduce yourself. Maybe you ask him or her questions, and then you try to find out what the two of you have in common. While doing this, you probably talk about similar interests or what you don't like, and maybe you even talk about your future goals or your plans. Afterwards, you may leave thinking about what you discovered that you had in common and hope that you see each other again. When you make connections in literature, you're doing the same thing. I want you to look at this graphic organizer on making connections. Text to self. This reminds me of a time, that's usually how you start, where it prompts you to think about a time in your life, or maybe somebody told you about that particular story, that it happened to them. Text to text. How does one story remind you of another story? Text to world. This reminds you of something that you heard about. So something that happened maybe in the news or on the radio that you heard about, and something very similar is going on in the book that you're reading. I want you to pause this video, and I want you to create this graphic organizer in your reading notebook. So pause the video. I want it to be colorful, and I want you to have making connections at the top. And I want you to describe what text to self is, text to text, and text to the world. And if you want to draw a figure like this, you most certainly can. And you will be uploading that picture in the next assignment. Today, we are going to listen to the story called Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson. And as you listen to the story, we're going to make different connections to it.
Welcome to A Teacher Reads,
a book. Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson. Illustrated by E. Lewis.
That winter, snow fell on everything,
turning the world a brilliant white.
One morning, as we settled into our seats,
the classroom door opened and the principal came in. She had a girl with her, and she said to us, "This is Maya." Maya looked down at the floor. I think I heard her whisper, "Welcome to A Teacher Reads." Her shoes.
Sorry, guys. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to pause it. So think about it. What is happening in the story? the author, okay, we don't know who the author is right now, but it's written in first person. For instance, like right here, I think I heard. So that means the author is the one telling the story. And what's happening? Is she meeting somebody for the first time? So maybe you can relate to the author by meeting somebody. It could be anybody for the first time. Or maybe you're going to relate to Maya of being the new person, being introduced to a lot of people who already know each other.
Maya looked down at the floor. I think I heard her whisper, "Hello." We all stared at her. Her coat was open, and the clothes beneath it looked old and ragged. Her shoes were spring shoes, not meant for the snow. A strap on one of them had broken.
Our teacher, Ms. Albert, said,
"Say good morning to our new student." But most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me. That's where our teacher put Maya. And on that first day, Maya turned to me and smiled. But I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself and my books, a little further away from her. When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. And every day after that, when Maya came into the classroom, I looked away and didn't smile back. My best friends that year were Kendra and Sophie. At lunchtime, we walked around the schoolyard, our fingers laced together, whispering secrets into each other's ears.
Again, I think we can all relate to the author of, it's hard for some of us to make new friends. Sometimes it can come off as looking mean, like you're being mean to the new person who doesn't know anybody. But we can also relate to Maya of being left out, like not feeling like you quite fit in. You're very new. You're very different from other people. Obviously, in this story, everybody's used to being around snow, but the way that Maya was described, it doesn't sound like she's been around snow because she wasn't dressed appropriately for snow.
One day, while we were near the slide, Maya came over to us. She held open her hand
to show us the shiny jacks and tiny red balls she'd gotten for her birthday. "It's a high bouncer," she said, but none of us wanted to play. So Maya played a game against herself. That afternoon, when we got back into the classroom, Maya whispered to me, "I bet you can't guess who the new Jacks champion of the world is." Behind me, Andrew whispered, "Chloe's got a new friend. Chloe's got a new friend." "She's not my friend," I whispered back. Weeks passed. Every day we whispered about Maya, laughing at her clothes, her shoes, the strange food she brought for lunch. Some days, Maya held out her hand to show us what she had brought to school. A deck of cards, pickup sticks, a small, tattered doll. Whenever she asked us to play, we said no. The days grew warmer and warmer. The pond thawed. Grass began growing where snow had once been. One day, Maya came to school wearing a pretty dress and fancy shoes. But the shoes and the dress looked like they belonged to another girl before Maya. "I have a new name for her,"
Kendra whispered.
Never knew. Everything she has came from a second-hand store. We all laughed. Maya stood by the fence. She was holding a jump rope, but did not come over to us to ask if we wanted to play. After a while, she folded it double, rolled the ends around each hand, and started jumping. She jumped around the whole schoolyard without stopping. She didn't look up once, just jumped, jumped, jumped. The next day, Maya's seat was empty.
In the class that morning,
we were talking about kindness. Ms. Albert had brought a big bowl into class and filled it with water. We all gathered around her desk and watched her drop a small stone into it. Tiny waves rippled out, away from the stone. This is what kindness does, Ms. Albert said. Each little thing we do goes out, like a ripple, into the world. Then Ms. Albert let us each drop a stone in
as we told her what kind things we have done.
Joseph had held the door for his grandmother. Kendra helped change her baby brother's diaper. Even mean old Andrew had done something. I carried teacher's books up the stairs, he said, and Ms. Albert said it was true. I stood there, holding Ms. Albert's rock in my hand, silent. Even small things count, Ms. Albert said gently, but I couldn't think of anything, and passed the stone on. Maya didn't come to school the next day.
Or the day after that. Each morning, I walked to school
slowly, hoping this would be the day Maya returned and she'd look at me and smile. I promised myself this would be the day I smiled back. Each kindness, Miss Albert had said, makes the world a little bit better. But Maya's seat remained empty, and one day Ms. Albert announced to the class that Maya wouldn't be coming back. Her family had to move away, Ms. Albert said. Then she told us to take out our notebooks. It was time for spelling. That afternoon, I walked home alone. When I reached the pond, my throat filled with all the things I wished I had said to Maya. Each kindness I had never shown. I threw small stones into it over and over, watching the way the water rippled out and away, out and away. Like each kindness, done and not done. Like every girl somewhere, holding a small gift out to someone, and that someone turning away from it.
Again, I think we can all relate to that, where we know we weren't nice, we weren't kind. We think about it, but at the time, we didn't do anything about it, and it kind of makes us feel sad. We've also been Maya, where we're trying to be nice, we're trying to make friends, but you just feel like nobody is being your friend. We can also relate to what's going on in the story, where maybe you have been to a creek or a river or a pond or a lake, and you have thrown a stone into the water and watched it ripple. Or maybe you had a cup of water, and when you tap the water wiggles and ripples all the way to the end of the cup.
I watched the water ripple as the sun set through the maples, and the chance of a kindness with Maya became more and more forever gone.
And that is the story of each kindness. We can all relate to the story in a little different way. And that's okay. We made a connection to the story. When we make connections, you remember different parts of the story. And all of us might make a different type of connection based on our experiences.